This presentation covers the requirements for the pre-startup meeting between the main contractor and the light steel supplier. The pre-startup meeting should be convened by the main contractor at least 8 to 10 weeks before start on site. Its objective is to identify the key issues that affect the installation of the light steel framing and the construction program. It should include aspects of access for delivery, site and working constraints, site facilities, craneage, sequencing of construction and handover requirements. The detailed construction programs should be agreed when all of these aspects have been resolved. And finally, it's necessary to agree how the value of the work will be measured for payments to the light steel supplier. Regarding the sequence of the light steel package, the areas to be handed over to the light steel installer should be agreed, and their timing. It's also necessary to agree what constitutes handover from the contractor to the installer, such as a level foundation, a clean area for working, etc. It's also necessary to agree what constitutes handover from the light steel installer to the main contractor, and also what is required for the start of follow-on activities. Temporary construction loads are very important as they affect the construction sequence, and so things like pallets of plasterboard and their weight should be agreed at this stage. And finally, it's necessary to define any other constraints to the construction operation, such as adjacent buildings or the limits on the crane, boom, etc. The safety plan has to be prepared at this stage, and the main contractor does this with input from the specialist suppliers. The light steel supplier provides a method statement and a risk assessment for the particular project, including generic information about the particular system used. It's also necessary to define any issues that influence the construction design and management, or CD&M regulations, which links the design process to construction. At this stage, also any temporary stability and construction loading issues are defined, such as influenced by the construction sequence. And the light steel supplier provides the names of the personnel in his team and their responsibilities. Lifting and installation is key to the light steel program. So as part of this, it's necessary to define the approved person responsible for preparing the lifting plan and administering their operations under the LOL-ER regulations. And also the personnel in the light steel team and their responsibility for lifting should be defined, such as a banksman. And also it's necessary to agree the use of the tower crane during installation, and this may also lead to the requirement for mobile cranes for particular areas. The maximum loads that can be lifted should be identified depending on the crane location and boom, and this is particularly important for the tower crane and hired-in mobile cranes. And the installer should identify if a genie lift or other small-scale equipment is required for installation of the light steel wall panels. So here we see a typical mobile crane lifting, in this case, timber panels for floorboarding, and as you can see, the crane is strategically placed to be able to access all areas of the site. Scaffolding is an important part of the whole process, and it's generally installed 2 stories in advance of the light steel framework, and at this stage is self-supporting. Access points from the scaffolding and stairs or ladders should be agreed. It's common for scaffolding to be tied to the light steel framework from level 3 onwards, but this should be agreed in advance, as there are special requirements for these attachment points. It's also necessary to agree any loading out requirements for the scaffolding, such as brickwork. and any requirements for support to scaffolding such as on setback roofs, which does influence the light steel construction system. So what have we learned about the pre-startup meeting? Well, it's important that this meeting is convened early enough to identify all the key issues for the construction of the light steel package. And it should be held 8 to 12 weeks before start on site. It should cover all aspects related to installation such as access, lifting, sequencing of construction, any site constraints, temporary loading and site facilities, etc. And then the construction program should be finalized based on all these factors. Finally, it should cover requirements for handover to and from the light steel supplier and the valuation of the work completed.